everyone and welcome back. In today's video I'm doing an art collaboration with Dramatic Parrot and I'm really excited to be doing another collaboration video. It's been a long time since I've done one of these videos with an artist here on YouTube and I was really excited to work on this piece with Dramatic Parrot. So what we thought we'd do is a line art swap, and we thought we would put an extra spin on it by drawing each other's favourite art supply as a female character. So she drew me a Copic marker princess, and this is the line art that I have from her to colour, and I drew her watercolour as a girl in the sort of style that I normally draw things with a border and sort of pattern backgrounds and all those details. So this is what I sent her to colour, and if you'd like to see her colour it, make sure that after you've watched this video you go check out her channel and her half of the collaboration. I think you guys will really like her channel. It's full of colour, it's very bright, very cheerful, she has a very bold, colourful style. She makes lots of tutorial based videos, she does lots of character tutorials that are really easy to follow along with, and when you watch her character tutorials, because she does it in real time and she sits down and shows you how to draw a character step by step from the start right the way to the end, it feels like having a private one-on-one lesson with a teacher. Her character tutorial videos I think are really good. She also does colouring tutorials, she does some unboxing review videos, she does some art challenges. On the whole, her channel is definitely much more tutorial based content like mine is, but she does do some art challenges and she has a variety of different content. I particularly like her tutorial videos. She works in watercolours, she does do some Copic marker work, she does lots of coloured pencils, and she also has a really nice Instagram account as well. And she also does quite a lot of Disney stuff, so I really like Disney and I love how colourful her work is. So hopefully you guys will check out her channel, I think you'll really like it. So I'm going to walk you through how I coloured my piece and the thought process that went behind some of the colours and how I approached this piece, because I had to approach colouring this illustration a little differently than I would normally, because normally I'm working with when you colour someone else's line art, sometimes your whole mindset is just a little bit different because they've drawn things in a way that you wouldn't normally draw, and that's one of the reasons why I particularly like line art swap collaborations, because it makes you think about things in a completely different way, and it's also really nice for the person who's drawn the line art to see how you've interpreted the lines and how you've coloured it, because we all make very different choices when we pick colours and when we approach colouring something, and I'm really excited to see how Dramatic Parrot colours my piece. I haven't seen it yet and I'm really looking forward to seeing how she colours my my line art. Right, so the first thing that I did was I printed out the Copic princess onto some Bristol board using my printer, and then I also printed out onto just some regular copy paper some little thumbnails. I downsized the image and just printed out 4 different thumbnails just so that I could play around with the colours, because I wanted to do a couple of things with this piece. I wanted to use bright, bold colours that I don't normally use, and I also wanted to really play around with gradients in this piece to really show off the blending abilities of the markers. And I really wanted to do a justice to the beautiful line art that Dramatic Parrot has drawn me, and I also wanted to do justice to the Copic markers that the piece is about. You know, this is the Copic princess, so I really wanted to show off the blending ability of the markers in this piece, and I decided to go for some yellows, some oranges, some pinks and purples for the dress colour, and I'll talk a bit more about that in a moment. And those are colours that I don't normally use. And I did a lot of different thumbnails, but I quickly kind of decided on the route I wanted to take. But it's always a good idea to do colour studies and thumbnails if you're working on an important piece or you just want to play around with different colours. I think thumbnails, colour studies are always a good idea. What I decided to do to start was to do the background. So you saw me colour that blue background with one marker. And I have to say that was the most nerve-wracking thing I've ever coloured. I've never coloured such a big piece of just a space that big with a marker like that. I had to work so quickly, I had to go back over my lines a lot because I wanted it to be as blended and as streak free as possible. Now towards the end of the colouring, the marker it wasn't as juicy as it was when I first started. I do have a refill for this blue, so that's one of the reasons why I used that particular colour, because I did have a refill for it, and so I wasn't afraid of it running out. But I found it was just so nerve-wracking. I had to work so quickly, and I had to, I was just concentrating really intently for about 4 minutes, colouring that background. Anyway, I think it worked really well, and there is a little bit of texture and a little bit of variation in the blue. I actually like that. That's one of the reasons why I like using traditional mediums, is that you get that unexpected texture to the artwork, but it was a very nerve-wracking thing to do, and that is when you need the chisel nib. Now, I know a lot of us that use markers, we don't necessarily use the chisel nib a lot, because normally it's not that useful for blending, but when you're colouring a really large stretch of area like I was with the blue background, I used the chisel nib pretty much non-stop. The chisel nib was was so useful in getting that pretty well blended background. So the chisel nib this is why we have the chisel nib. So I just wanted to put that out there, because I don't use the chisel nib a lot, but I found it was so helpful in doing that background. So I started with the background, and then I obviously went on and did the hair, then did the Copic marker that she's holding, the giant Copic marker, and then I coloured in her little Copic marker tiara and her little Copic marker belt and the little strip at the top of her bodice. And I did all that in the greys because they were the easiest colours to place down, because when it came to the dress, I was a little unsure about exactly what I wanted to do. Even though I'd done the thumbnails, I wanted to place all the other colours down first and kind of see how they were feeling before I went in with my gradient and started doing the gradient for the dress. Now, the dress, I have no real reason why I chose these colours. I just kind of felt like using them today when I coloured it. But I also liked the idea of the dress looking like a sunset or a sunrise. You know, that blend of yellows and oranges and pinks and purples. And I wanted the dress to have a bit of a wow factor. Because this piece is there's not a lot going on in it. There's just her. And the dress doesn't have a pattern to it. It's not full of embellishments or anything. So it was a really great opportunity for me to really experiment with the colour and to experiment with doing the gradations. Because normally when I colour my own images, sometimes I put so much clutter in them, or at least I love putting the clutter in them, that's why I do it, but sometimes what I find is that I can't do these lovely big gradients, and I can't make the colours pop always in the same way, because there's a lot of other things taking up the composition. So when I was planning out my piece, because she is so bold and so much, you know, there's nothing else to look at in this piece, I knew that the dress had to just be I don't know how spectacular you think it is, but I think it worked really well. It kind of had to just pop, and you just needed to look at it and think, oh wow, look at that dress, because it was so important in this drawing. There's nothing else going on, so that the dress really had to pop. And that's why I decided not to do it just one colour. I thought it'd be wonderful if the dress was a gradient, either like a flower or like a sunset or a sunrise, some sort of lovely gradient to show off the blending abilities of the markers. And also, because she's a princess, I didn't want to choose colours. I didn't want her dress to be like any other princess dress. And the style of the dress that Dramatic Parrot has drawn me is certainly slightly Disney-esque. It reminded me a little bit of parts of and that party dress that Ariel wears in The Little Mermaid, the blue dress, and also a bit of Cinderella's dress. And I didn't want it certainly has a sort of slight Disney vibe to it, and I didn't want the colours of the dress to be like any other princess that has ever been created. Now, I don't know, maybe there is a princess that has these colours in her dress. I haven't seen one, but I really wanted it to have that wow, look at that dress and look at those colours. So that's one of the reasons why I did the background blue, so that she would pop out. And it also sort of makes sense that if she has a sunrise sunset dress, then the blue background sort of makes some sense in that scenario. And I actually decided to leave that white circle white at the back behind her, because halfway through in some of the thumbnails you may see glimpses of them to the side there. I actually had the circle coloured blue and the background coloured white, and I decided to reverse the two and colouring the whole background blue and keeping the circle white, because I wanted this piece to have a very illustrative feel, as if it could be like the cover of a book. So I wanted it to have colour right the way to the edge of the border, and I like that I left that white circle white, because it helps her to pop a little bit against the blue background. And now I'm just going in, after I've done all the marker work, and I'm adding the white highlights back to her dress, and adding some sort of stardust around the Copic marker, because obviously this is a magic Copic marker. She's the Copic princess, she has a magic Copic marker. I think it's special, the Copic marker's special skill could be that it never runs out of ink. It's a magic, never running out of ink Copic marker. I think that would be a pretty cool thing to have. And I also added a few little circles to the background, just because I felt it was a little bit plain and I wanted to add a little bit of a white pop to it. Now I'm just taking off the masking tape, and I particularly like masking off my larger illustrations like this, so that I can colour right up to the masking tape, and then when I take it off I have that lovely white border all the way around. I think it looks really nice on the finished piece. So that's the piece all finished. Thank you so much, Dramatic Parrot, for collaborating with me on this. I can't wait to see how you colour my line art, and I hope you'll all go and watch her half of the video. I'll leave a link in the iCard section. I really loved doing this collaboration, and I loved the beautiful Copic princess that Dramatic Parrot sent me. So anyway, I hope you all enjoyed this video. Feel free to leave any comments you have in the description box below, in the comments section below I mean, and I hope you all have a wonderful week, and I will see you next time.